Yemen's former leader Ali Abdullah Saleh once said ruling the country was like dancing on the heads of snakes. And in his 34 years in power, that's exactly what he did. In fact, 5 years after he was overthrown, he's still dancing. For the last 2 years, the country has been plunged into a devastating civil war between the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in the north and a Saudi Arabia-led coalition backing the current leader, Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi, who's from the south. But it goes deeper, and Saleh is at the center of it all. Tensions between North and South Yemen are not new. In fact, both sides have been fighting for decades over ideology, tribal alliances, and oil. The 1970s saw a string of political assassinations, resulting in the killing of North Yemen's president, Ahmed al-Ghashimi. Saleh, a military governor at the time, took over, and a decade later began unification talks with his counterpart, Ali Salim al-Bayd, in the south. When the Republic of Yemen was formed in 1990, Saleh became the president, with al-Bayd as his deputy. It was a period of free press, free elections, and a democratic promise for the future of the country. But that hope was crushed in 1994, when both sides went to war again. And Saleh used the opportunity to crush al-Bayd and his supporters and drive them out of the country. After years of war, Yemen's economy was in free fall. Unemployment was high, infrastructure was poor, and Saleh's government took out several large loans from the IMF and World Bank. When the war on terror began following the September 11 attacks, he flew to Washington to pledge his full support. Al-Qaeda had taken a foothold in South Yemen, and Saleh used it to shore up financial and military aid from the US. In exchange, he let the US secretly conduct bombing raids on his turf, while publicly taking credit for it. But the fight dragged on, and angered the tribes down south, already feeling isolated and abandoned, igniting talks of secession. Meanwhile, back up north, Saleh was making another enemy, the Zaidi tribe and their armed faction, the Houthis. They accused Saleh of failing to fix the economy and allying with America and Israel. They launched an armed rebellion in 2004. Saleh was now fighting the Houthis up north, protesters down south, and failing to implement the terms of the international loans he was taking out. He was also accused of amassing nearly $60 billion of wealth for him and his family, while the country struggled with poverty. When anti-government protests rippled across the Arab world in 2011, Yemenis in the north and south joined in, calling for Saleh to step down. As the country descended into chaos yet again, he was eventually forced to resign a year later and hand power over to his vice president, Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi. But Saleh wasn't going quietly, and continued to give orders to generals and security forces still loyal to him. His forces attacked state institutions and attempted to sabotage the ongoing fight against Al-Qaeda, who was gaining territory in the south and who Saleh had been secretly meeting with. Yemen's new leader Hadi purged the army of Saleh's loyalists and distanced his family members from key posts. Up north, the Houthis were watching the situation unfold and found another chance to rebel. When his attempts at regaining control failed, Saleh gathered an army and used his northern Zaidi roots to align himself with his former enemy, the Houthis. With quiet support from Iran and not so quiet support from Saleh's army, the Houthis quickly took control of the capital Sanaa and declared they were now running the country. As the Houthis advanced into the south, Yemen's President Hadi fled to Saudi Arabia, where he gathered support for a counterattack. Worried about Iran gaining a foothold on its border, Saudi launched a regional coalition with 7 other countries and began bombing Sanaa. Two years later, Yemen is in ruins, with more than 10,000 civilians killed and in the midst of famine and cholera outbreak. It's also in a political stalemate, with the Houthis, the Saudi-backed Hadi government, and Al-Qaeda all fighting for territory. Back in the south, there's more support for secession now than ever before. So where is Ali Abdullah Saleh? Well, he's now reportedly in talks with both Saudi Arabia and the UAE, where his son currently lives, to strike a new deal. One that would sideline both the Houthis and Hadi and put him back in power. So, will the country survive this civil war? And will Yemen's snake charmer rise again?